Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're taking a magnifying glass to something you probably do on total autopilot, washing your hair. But what if I told you that chasing that squeaky clean feeling might actually be creating, well, a bit of a crime scene on your scalp? We're going to investigate the hidden health impacts of your daily shower routine and really break down the science of shampoo toxicity.
Okay, let's dive into this because I promise you, this question is not an exaggeration. Recent lawsuits and all those viral stories going around have brought to light a pretty unexpected reality. The very products we're trusting to nourish our hair, they could be the exact culprits behind hair loss, severe scalp irritation, and even long-term health risks. It turns out moving from a bad hair day to a literally no hair day might be bottled up right there in your shower caddy.
So, here is our roadmap for today's investigation. We'll quickly cover the hidden cost of clean, the toxic ingredients you definitely want to avoid, unseen contaminants and byproducts, the absolute importance of pH balance, and finally, how to switch to safer alternatives. All right, Section 1, the hidden cost of clean. Let's immediately challenge a massive myth the beauty industry has been selling us for decades.
Think about that feeling when you rinse your hair and it literally squeaks between your fingers, right? We have been so conditioned to think that means it's perfectly clean. But biologically speaking, that sensation is actually a giant alarm bell. That squeak usually means your shampoo has completely stripped away your natural oils. It's aggressively lifted the hair cuticles, and it's compromised your scalp's protective barrier. So the very thing we associate with cleanliness is actually often the first sign of chemical damage.
Which brings us to Section 2, toxic ingredients to avoid. Let's look at the usual suspects, the chemicals deliberately put into these bottles. Seriously, grab your shampoo bottle because you might just find a few of these on the back. Manufacturers intentionally use these for massive foam and to make the product last forever on a shelf. But it comes at a huge cost. We've got SLS and SLEs, super harsh detergents that just strip moisture right out. There's phthalates, used as binding agents, but linked to hormone changes. Synthetic fragrances, huge triggers for a dry, flaky scalp. And then, look at the bottom there, propylene glycol. This ingredient is so notoriously irritating, it literally won the title of Allergen of the Year in 2018. Not exactly an award you want hanging out in your shower. Let's zero in on parabens for a second. They're basically cheap preservatives used to stop bacteria from growing in the bottle. But here is the major issue. They are rapidly absorbed right through your scalp and straight into your tissues. Science points to them being endocrine disruptors. That means they can actually mimic estrogen in the body. This is exactly why there is a massive global push to get them phased out of cosmetics for good.
Another preservative you really need to watch out for is DMDM hydantoin. This one has actually been at the center of class action lawsuits regarding hair loss. Here's how it works. To kill microorganisms, it slowly leaches formaldehyde when it touches water. Now, to be perfectly fair, the trace amount of formaldehyde released in a single use is comparable to what you'd naturally find in apple. But it's the daily cumulative exposure on your scalp, especially if you already have skin sensitivities, that can trigger severe contact dermatitis and, yeah, significant hair shedding.
Moving on to Section 3, unseen contaminants and byproducts. We know what's on the label, but what about the toxins they don't have to tell you about? Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the critical distinction here. On the left, we've got intentional ingredients, stuff added on purpose for a specific job. But on the right, unintentional contaminants. These are hidden, trace chemical byproducts from the manufacturing process itself, or even from the gases used in aerosol cans. Because they aren't technically ingredients, they will never, ever be printed on your label. It's a totally invisible risk.
A prime example of this is 1,4-dioxane. According to the FDA, this is a potential human carcinogen, and it forms as a byproduct when companies create foaming agents. Basically, if you see ingredients starting with PEG, like polyethylene glycol, or ending in ETH, like sodium lauryl sulfate, there's a real risk of 1,4-dioxane contamination. The only way to get rid of it is through a process called vacuum stripping, but unless a brand explicitly guarantees they do this, you might literally be washing your hair with trace amounts of a known carcinogen.
And we can't talk about this without mentioning the recent dry shampoo crisis. You probably remember the shocking FDA recalls. The culprit there was benzene, a chemical definitively linked to blood cancers like leukemia. And get this, the benzene wasn't an ingredient in the shampoo powder itself. It was a contaminant in the petroleum-based aerosol propellants, the actual gas used to spray the product out of the can. It turned a super convenient fix for greasy hair into a very serious health risk. Okay, Section 4, the importance of pH balance. Let's step away from the chemicals for a minute and look at the actual biology of your scalp. So the magic number here is 4.5 to 5.5. This is the ideal, slightly acidic, natural pH of a healthy human scalp. It is literally the foundation of healthy hair, and yet most traditional shampoos completely ignore it.
That 4.5 to 5.5 pH creates something called the acid mantle. Think of it like your scalp's invisible security system. It's a slightly acidic layer where good bacteria thrive and bad microbes like the yeast that causes dandruff are kept totally in check. Plus, it locks in moisture. When you use harsh, highly alkaline products, you're essentially blasting away this acid mantle, leaving the door wide open for fungal overgrowth, chronic inflammation, and severe dryness.
To really visualize how this damages the hair strand itself, think of your hair cuticles like shingles on a roof. A pH-balanced shampoo keeps those shingles lying completely flat and sealed tight. That locks in hydration and stops frizz. But a high alkaline shampoo, it aggressively swells and lifts those cuticles up. And once those shingles are lifted, moisture escapes, protein bonds weaken, and all that friction between your strands leads to massive frizz and pretty inevitable breakage. But hey, the great news is you do not have to sacrifice clean hair to get a healthy scalp. Let's jump to our final section, switching to safer alternatives.
And this brilliantly illustrates what happens when you make the switch. When you move to a sulfate-free shampoo, there are some specific trade-offs. Instead of harsh salts violently removing oil, modern sulfate-free formulas use milder, plant-based surfactants, like glucosides from coconuts. They clean beautifully without ruining your acid mantle. Your color will last way longer and your scalp won't feel tight and stripped. But you will definitely notice a difference in the foam, which brings us to a huge psychological hurdle.
The lather gap, yep, it's a real thing. It's this deep-seated consumer misconception that massive, high-volume foam is scientifically necessary to get clean. Spoiler alert, it's not. Sulfates are just uniquely shaped to create rapid, giant bubbles. Sulfate-free alternatives create more of a smaller, creamier lather. We literally have to retrain our brains to overcome this gap and realize that a gentle, creamy lather is actually 1,000 times better for our scalp than a harsh, bubbly foam.
So what should you actually look for? First, ditch the silicones. They just create a fake smoothness by coating your hair in liquid plastic. Gross, right? Instead, look for cold-processed saponified plant oils, things like coconut, shea, and argan oil. Actually, shampoo bars are an incredibly awesome back-to-basics alternative here. They completely remove the water weight, the plastic bottle, and all those harsh chemical preservatives. Just a heads up, though. As you cut out the sulfates and silicones, your scalp will need a brief transition period to adjust and remember how to balance its own oils again.
Ultimately, transitioning to cleaner, paraben-free products means making a really conscious choice to shift your habits. It means turning the bottle around, reading the labels, questioning the stuff you can't pronounce, and choosing to prioritize the actual biological health of your scalp over that temporary cosmetic illusion of being squeaky clean. Which leaves us with this final thought for the next time you step into the shower. Is a bubbly, aggressive lather truly worth risking your long-term health? Or is it finally time to close the lather gap and treat your scalp with the science-backed respect it actually deserves? Go check those labels today, guys, and take control of your routine. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will catch you in the next one.